Why are estate agents allergic to bad news about the property market? Today I'm joined by Colby Short, who is the co-founder of GetAgent. Colby, why are estate agents so allergic to bad news about the property market? Talk to me.
Yeah, this is an interesting question because this was brought about from the ONS figures for January transactions, which were the lowest since 2013, except for 4 months, 3 of which were in the depths of COVID, and the 4th was just before a Help to Buy scheme kind of ended. So you take out those anomalies, January was the worst month for transactions since 2013. And when the figures came out at the end of Feb, my co-founder, who is kind of the tech one of the two of us, said to me, "Why is no one talking about this?" And I didn't really have an answer for him at first. And then I kind of thought about it. And I think essentially a lot of people in the estate agency industry, we come from a sales background. I come from a sales background. Estate agents come from a sales background. And one of the things which is really, really important for us to actually be able to get up in the morning and do a good job is that positive mental attitude. And it sounds silly, but it's really, really important. And kind of waking up in the morning and thinking, oh, the market's a bit crap at the minute. It's a tough market. It's a tough slog. That's not going to get you to where you want to get to. So I think it's really, really important for agents to keep that kind of positive mental attitude and kind of cut out some of the noise, which is why you don't even really see it on kind of Property Industry Eye. Suppliers don't really talk about it. There's not much coming out from 20CI talking about it. You go to conferences in general, people ask, how's the market going? You generally hear good things because that's what agents want to hear. They want to hear the good news. So that's one side of it. But I think one of the other side of it, which is often, for me at GetAgent, kind of we only get paid on completion. So we have this kind of the same thing as estate agents, that at any one moment in time, we're dealing with top of the funnel and bottom of the funnel at the same time. And personally, one of the things I struggle with is often the good months for one are bad months for the other. So whilst some months recently have been kind of terrible for transactions, actually listings have been really, really good. And there's such a time gap between those completions and transactions and actually what's happening on the front line that actually in January, probably too late. What's the point in dwelling on transactions? Because ultimately that was from middle of last year, beginning of last year, and it seems now the market kind of is really picking up. So essentially kind of what's the point in dwelling on the negatives when there's some positives knocking about? And that comes back to requiring that positive mental attitude. And I think that most of us are looking to kind of cling on to anything positive.
Almost like a a life raft or one of those hoop things that they chuck in on a swimming pool.
Probably.
Do you think it makes a difference as an estate agent whether the market's doing, and when I say that, I mean, it's interesting how, and I'm a bit of a stat man myself, how people's perception is if house prices are going up, that can only be good news. Because it isn't, is it?
I think for an estate agent, the gap between kind of 2% property prices going up 2 or 3%, or kind of transactions falling 10%, kind of transactions falling is the bad problem. And I think last year transactions fell a lot.
Compared to the year before, yes.
Yeah, but I think also the market is also driven by consumer sentiment, and it's much easier to drive a positive seller and buyer sentiment when property prices are going up. The gap between property prices going up 1% or down 1% may only be 2% in property prices, but in terms of how someone feels about their larger financial asset, it can make quite a big difference. Like your point about, is it like a life jacket, something to cling onto, is an interesting one. But I think actually a lot of the time in this case, it is true. The market does seem to be improving. So it's not, I think people want to cling on to that because they know things are going in a better direction.
What would your message be to any estate agent, like later in the year and there's a run of bad news? What would your advice be to agents then? Should they be worried?
Look, kind of, I'm not an estate agent. I've never been an estate agent. It's not my place to tell estate agents what to do or how to think. But as somebody whose business is similar to theirs in terms of we only get paid on completion, the transaction numbers really, really impact our business. In terms of how I would think about it, when times are tough, you just have to focus on how you're performing relatively. You have to control the controllables. There's no point kind of dwelling on the past. You just have to focus on what's ahead of you. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's really true. And look, as an owner of a business myself, and I know lots of estate agents own their own business, our family futures are also very, very linked to our business performance. And psychologically, that's something that I think is very, very tough for people to deal with, because you can't go home and forget about it. So I think that's why it's really important that we can always feel like we're moving forward in some way. So focusing on the controllables is one way kind of to get through things without losing the plot.
Thank you for your time today, Colby.